going on, guys? So today we're talking about official prediction, Gane, Ngannou. Let's get it going.
Aaron Rodgers, Conor McGregor versus Tony Ferguson.
So normally I like to do at least more than one fight on a card, but it's Figueiredo versus Moreno 3, which is absolutely insane and unnecessary. I am also excited too about Michael Pereira fighting. That should be something cool to see, but let's be real. The UFC knows, and you know, I know, we all know that the main reason you're buying this pay-per-view is for the main event. And what is cool about the UFC is that, unlike really any other promotion, is that you are still going to get great fights, right? Like, you are still going to get these crazy cool fights, even if it doesn't include big names, only because it's the UFC, right? But let's just get to the main point of the video, right? Gane versus Ngannou, and we all know that this fight can only go one of two ways. Either Ngannou's never going to touch Gane, or he's going to knock Gane out. And Gane still, to this day, suffers from the same thing he suffered in the Derek Lewis fight, the same thing he suffered in the Volkov fight, same thing he suffered in every fight thus far. It's that he's never been challenged. And nobody has any idea how he responds to being challenged. Does he rise to the occasion? Does he crumble under the pressure? What does Gane do when he's wobbled? What does Gane do when he, the fight's not going according to his plan? Right? We see this happen a lot of times to fighters where they'll be in a fight that was either harder than they expected or just a lot different than they expected. And when that happens, a lot of times the fighters kind of start to freak out a little bit. And I think that we could see a situation where that happens to Gane, and we don't know how he's gonna respond. Because the difference between Francis Ngannou and every other person that Gane has fought, Francis Ngannou is stronger. Francis Ngannou is more athletic. Francis Ngannou represents the next wave of heavyweights, and he might actually be, depending on how this fight goes, the first amongst that next wave of heavyweights, right? Because do a brief history on the heavyweight division, it has not been super exciting. I just rewatched Velasquez versus Lesnar, and it's crazy. Like, that's what the heavyweight division used to be. Like, that's what, and then that was the thing. Like, Lesnar was, almost like 2 generations ago now of heavyweights, where it was really just like the fat guys fighting over who gets the last hot dog, right? And then it became, the Velasquez's and the DeSantos's and the DC's, eventually getting to Miocic, who just couldn't beat Ngannou. And then we watch a guy like Ciryl Gane fight, and it's like he's on a completely new level. And then we see even a guy like Chris Daukaus. I know he just got embarrassed by Derek Lewis, but even a guy like Chris Daukaus, Tai Tuivasa, who's about to go fight Derek Lewis, Tom Aspinall is about to fight Alexander Volkov. Like, there are a lot of great fighters in the heavyweight division that are young and upcoming, and Gane is one of them. But so is Ngannou. And that's what makes this fight so hard to predict. I know that when this fight opened, the line was even, 110, minus 110, minus 110. The reason that it changed is that Ngannou was talking about contract disputes with the UFC. Ngannou was talking about boxing Tyson Fury, and it doesn't. We don't know if his head's in the fight. We also know that Ngannou's former coach is there, right? And we talk a lot about, he knows, there's all that history there, and that's going to be extra motivation for Ngannou. But he also knows all of Ngannou's weaknesses. And Ngannou can say to his blue in the face that he's different than the way he used to be. We know how that's going to go. So this is a hard fight to predict. I am curious to see, though, how Ngannou responds to... Because here's the thing. Ciryl Gane, he beat Derek Lewis via TKO in the 3rd round. I don't see this fight going that way. If Gane's going to win this fight, I think he has to just play the tag game for 5 rounds. And we've never seen Ngannou go 5 rounds and not struggle. Now, he's only gone 5 rounds once. Because in the Derek Lewis fight, he went to decision, but it was only 3 rounds, right? So, and those are the only 2 losses that he has. So this is a really hard fight to predict. This is an unstoppable force, meaning an immovable object. I think that if Ngannou touches him, just like everybody else, Gane loses. Like I just don't. There's no There's only so much pain a human being can take, and I'm trying to think of the last person who took a legit shot from Francis Ngannou and just survived, right? And we can talk about Gane's quickness, Gane's speed, Gane's agility, all of that jazz. But usually what happens when you have a lot of agility and you have a lot of speed, you sacrifice certain things. Gane's got a lot of power. He didn't really sacrifice too much power. Durability might come into question. We never got to see Derek Lewis touch him. And that's what was so scary, was that we were like, can he do that to Francis Ngannou? I don't know. But I don't think he's going to be able to for 5 rounds. And I think that if this gets into the deep waters, if this gets to the championship rounds, I would be very curious to see if Francis Ngannou's stamina is going to be able to hold up. But I don't think it's going to get that far. I think second round knockout, clean knockout. It's going to be one of those fights where you're like, okay, Conor said second round knockout, doesn't look like it's going to happen. And then Gane's going to start to get a little bit looser, get a little bit, less crisp, less clean, and then lights out. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think wins this fight? Let me know in those comments down below. Click that like button to show your support for the channel. Subscribe for even more content. But most importantly of all, have a good day.